Humans migrate, that's what we do. Back in the days before the Rolling Stones, we lived in caves and followed herds for our survival. Any life form that can, moves when they're in an area they can't survive in. Either that or they die. It's that simple. From whales to zebras to construction workers. If you can't eat, raise your offspring, or collect a paycheck, you'll move. During the Great Depression, people left the South and the Midwest for California looking for work. During World War II, people left the South for places like Detroit and Los Angeles to work in jobs supporting the war effort. In recent times, a notable shift in population migration patterns has been witnessed across the United States. Popular destinations like Texas, New York, and California have traditionally held a strong appeal because that's where the jobs were. These days, an increasing number of people and businesses are finding themselves drawn to the Midwest. This movement can be attributed to a combination of factors, and that's what we're looking at today. Got it? Gummit? Good. Let's take a look. One of the key factors driving the migration to the Midwest is affordability of housing and overall low cost of living. Both Texas and California, known for their bustling cities and vibrant economies, have experienced skyrocketing housing costs in major urban centers. Now, for California, this has been going on since the 1980s. For Texas, it started blowing up around 2000. In contrast, the Midwest offers more reasonable cost of living with lower housing prices and less pressure on the household budget. This affordability factor is very appealing to young professionals and families seeking to establish themselves without the financial strain associated with a serious mortgage. Now, overall, in every single state of the Midwest, the cost of living is somewhere between 5 and 10% lower than the national average. The housing, even to this day, is where they really shine. Let me give you some examples. The median house price in California is $799,000. That's first quarter 2023. In New York, $531,000. Texas, $382,000. Now, let's say you go to Middle America and look for a house in Nebraska. The median home price there is $296,000. Kansas, even cheaper, $282,000. Just to give you an idea how drastic that is, if you bought that house in California for $799,000, your monthly mortgage would be somewhere just under $5,000, like $4,700. That's a month. If you buy that home in Iowa, it's about $1,400. Now, obviously, it's going to vary depending on A, how much the house really is, what your mortgage rate is, and how much money you put down. The number I gave you is a total ballpark number, just to give you an idea. Quality of life also plays a pivotal role in this migration trend. The Midwest boasts a strong sense of community, often characterized by friendly neighborhoods and a slower pace of life. That's just how the Midwest is. Some people like a little faster paced life, want a little excitement. I have no data to back this up, but I would say over 50% of the country would rather live a slower paced life around friendly people than a life full of chaos and neighbors that flip you off and make jokes about your mom. If you look at studies on mental health and stress, and they start ranking the cities, which I did a couple years ago, one thing you won't see is any city in the Midwest. It was Portland, Los Angeles, Seattle, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Miami, Richmond, Virginia was on there, Little Rock, Arkansas, and New York. They were all on that list. So you get a faster paced life, a little more excitement, and some good old-fashioned depression. Besides friendly neighbors, job opportunities have been diversifying in the Midwest, making it a more attractive destination for those seeking professional growth. Over the last decade, states like Illinois, Michigan, and Minnesota have invested a lot into innovation, education, and research. They're trying to create a more educated workforce to draw in tech companies, and it's working. Since forever, the Midwest's employment opportunities were mainly manufacturing, government, like the military or whatever, and normal government jobs, and farming. These days, certain areas in the Midwest have turned into technology hubs, healthcare centers, and they've got a lot more manufacturing facilities. The growth for these newer industries is just going to continue for probably the next handful of decades. In 2018, there was a shift in the age demographic of people moving to the Midwest. 3 of the top 10 states for millennials and Gen Z migration have been in the Midwest. You had Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska. Back in the 1980s and 90s, that was impossible. It just didn't happen. People moved to Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Texas, probably back then too, and California. They're big on Miami for quite a long time during the 80s and 90s. Telling someone you were moving to the Midwest, like Des Moines, Iowa, or Wichita was almost like admitting defeat. That's not a thing anymore. Gen Z and millennials are smarter. They know the value of a dollar and they're not sucked into a lifestyle as much as a lot of us were that, became adults in the 80s and 90s. Back then, those big metro areas like Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Miami was where you had to be. These days, with the internet and everything, where you have to be is wherever you are. These generations have embraced the remote work lifestyle more than Gen X and baby boomers. Now, that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. They are younger and they have a better grasp of tech than most of us do. And they have come to realize you don't need to be in a major city to have a job. And that's how major cities grew back in the day. That's where all the jobs were. More and more tech firms are moving to the Midwest, and that's bringing these younger people out there. In 2012, it was estimated that only 6 to 11% of new startup companies happened in the Midwest. In 2022, that number was between 25 and 30%. Younger adults know this, and they're taking advantage of it. I mean, honestly, why work at a tech company in a place where you can't survive? You can't buy a home. The number's a little outdated. Like 3 years ago, they were talking to people that were making $90,000 and $110,000 in the Silicon Valley area. They couldn't afford a home. They had a hard time making rent. They're talking to one guy, I forget if he had like 3 or 4 roommates. Everyone in there was making over 90 grand, and you had to have the roommates to live in this apartment, and it was nothing special. Mark my words, by 2025, you will see some place like Des Moines or Wichita, Omaha, Lincoln, or Peoria bubble up to the surface as a Midwest tech hub. The appeal of political stability cannot be overlooked. The Midwest tends to embrace a more balanced political landscape, attracting individuals seeking a sense of moderation and a reduced polarization in their surroundings. It's toxic. Only makes sense. This can be enticing in an era where political tensions are high and people want a more harmonious and united community. We all know what politics have become. Terribly toxic. Of all the regions in the US, studies show that the Midwest is into politics, but they keep it to themselves most of the time. One guy explained it like their sex lives. They like it, they do it, they just don't want to explain how they do it to you, and they don't want you to explain how you do it. And they sure don't want you to tell them how they're doing it wrong. Only 30% of Americans follow politics in non-presidential election years, and only about 11% of Americans are those hardcore live and breathe, I get my identity from politics types. You know who they are. They're the ones that leave angry political comments on baby shark videos. If you spend too much time on the internet, you probably think the entire country is just ablaze with political anger and opinions. Once you get off the internet, you don't rarely hear anyone talking about politics. The Midwest seems to be more laid back overall when it comes to politics. They take that whole live and let live, be good to thy neighbor teaching to heart. There's a growing percentage of millennials and Gen Z that are tuning out of politics, and they want to move someplace where they're not going to have to deal with politics. In conclusion, the shifting migration patterns towards the Midwest signals a change in the American dream. While Texas and California have long held the limelight as prime destinations, the Midwest is emerging as a compelling alternative. Affordability, quality of life, job opportunities, recreational options, and political stability collectively paint an enticing picture for those who seek a more balanced and sustainable lifestyle. As more individuals and families make the move to the heartland of the country, the Midwest influence is poised to grow, shaping the next chapter of American migration and culture. Be nice to each other.